Recording in progress. Good evening and welcome everybody to a late night community live call. We have our sometimes regular co-host, depending on how busy she is, Miss Hayley. How are you, Hayley?
I'm good, thank you. How is everybody? Thumbs up. Can't have to see everybody, but I hope everybody's well. I've been MIA, but I've been head down, bum up.
Head down, bum up, and welcome everyone to the call. Dr. Carrie is she's about 10 minutes away. It is about 7 in the morning or 7:30 in the morning in Atlanta, Georgia. So we're going to give everyone a couple of minutes to tune in. I'm just going to put a quick plug on the Telegram page to remind everyone that we're kicking off right now. But Hayley, would you care to read through the list of guests and welcome everyone to the call while I post a quick one on the Telegram? Don't be shy. We can't hear you. Where'd you go? What have I done? I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself or something. Oh, there you go.
That up. So what do you want me to do? What am I doing? Just going to read.
Just read through the list and welcome everyone. Whilst I just give this a quick plug and a reminder.
Excellent. So I feel a bit weird reading off the list. I'm just super stoked to see everybody here, to be fair. So is everybody familiar with what's going on in the chat? So when Dr. Carrie arrives, it will be incredible. So it would be very, very helpful if you could all put in questions and everything else in the chat. Dave, do we still do the format where we let people jump in and verbalize and ask questions?
I think tonight we'll probably just stick to sorry, which mic am I on? Yeah, sorry, this mic. Is this audio now sounding better? Is that better?
Much better, yeah, it's not echoey. Okay. Good man.
Okay. So yeah, tonight, guys, please put your questions in the chat thread. If we have got time, depending on how busy Dr. Carrie is, we might let a couple of people say hello and meet her personally as well. But here's the thing, guys. I don't think I can think of many more important whistleblowers in the world over the last 3 years. She would have to be up there in the top 5, that's for sure. Her impact's been incredible. And I hope you guys understand like the vision of what we're trying to do here, because, you know, just to be upfront and honest with you all, we are all doing this for love at the moment, especially Hayley. She has put in so much time, effort, resources, and her whole team behind this project. And our vision is to bring the best people in the world to a live platform so you can interact with them, Q&A. We are at the very start of something. We obviously need your help to grow this community. But did you know, I just want everyone to understand, did you know that Zoom can actually hold up to 50,000 people? 50,000 people. Can you imagine we had 50,000 Australians on this call hearing from Dr. Carrie Madej and her incredible story and how impactful and how powerful that would be. And that's only going to happen with all of us working together and linking arms. So at the same time, like we're just going to have a small group here tonight, which is incredibly special as well. You know, to spend some time with Dr. Carrie. I flew to the other side of the world to get to know her, and meeting her and Del Bigtree alone made the whole trip worth it. They actually made the whole trip worth it. So you guys are really in for a treat tonight. Stick around because this is a woman who, you know, they tried to take her out. I don't want to steal too much thunder of her story, but they tried to take her out. Her plane was crashed. It was a little over a year ago that they took her plane down. She was laying on the wing of that plane with her leg spun 180 degrees around. The paramedics were asking for her insurance number, her medical insurance number, before they were going to come and get her. And her story of survival is incredible. But not only that, it didn't stop her speaking. It hasn't stopped her. So obviously the information that she's been sharing, they did not want it to get out. They wanted to shut her up. And she has continued to keep fighting. And not only that, her faith has never been stronger and her mission has never been more certain. So I really, really, really encourage you guys just to minimize your distractions and absolutely listen to what she's got to say tonight. We're just going to flow with the conversation. She's also going to cover some of the detox protocols. So please, while you can now, grab a pen and paper, because we all have loved ones that we care for in communities and people around us who unfortunately have, you know, multiple doses of this bioweapon. and they're going to need all the help they can get over the coming months and years. And it is a race against time to get people protocols and information so they can minimize and negate some of the damage. So before we kick off, Hayley, anything you wanted to add in the meantime? What's that? You're muted, Hayley?
That's all right. I'm not used to not being in control. It's
Oh, I've got to make you co-host.
Yeah.
Oh, there. Where are you? I can't even.
It's almost like somebody's put a mask on me, Dave, and you know how much I love a mask.
Oh yeah, you love a mask. Sorry about that. I feel terrible. Please tell us. Please, yeah, share something.
I haven't got anything to share, to be honest. I've literally I suppose we could talk about something cool that we're working on in the space of actually it's huge what we're doing in the space of a land idea and concept. So we'll be able to share that with the community shortly. And I know that Dave, we're trying really hard to kind of not say too much, but I mean, it's cool that we can let you all know that we're working on something that's much bigger than all of this. So Dave, I know you've been an Out Louder for 3 years. Well, no, not for 3 years. That's me for 3 years. But I know that you've been doing that for a lot longer. So, yeah, I just want everyone to know that we're actually doing much more than what you can see. So there's lots of things happening behind the scenes, and
good point.
We love your support.
Yeah, I'm getting feedback that my microphone sucks. Is that any better if I put it closer to my mouth?
Yeah, much better.
Is that much better? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for, by the way, folks, I just want to say to you all, thank you all for staying up late tonight. I was going to put out a video because I saw a few earlier comments of people saying, oh, it's late. Oh, I've got to get my beauty sleep. I've got to get up early the next day. I'm like, you know what? Bullshit. This is a really serious situation right now. And this is one of the most important people in the world who's put her time aside for you, for all of us to have some really critical time. So I'm like, you know what? In a war, you know, sleep when you're dead. And let's not underestimate. I know I sound, I can sound a bit facetious sometimes, but in all seriousness, we're in a freaking war. You see the weather engineering that went on over the last 48 hours. They unloaded on us over the last 48 hours. This psychological operation that's going on right now, all this media confusion. It's like they're playing a game of pin the tail on the donkey, trying to confuse the masses and just run this divide and conquer campaign. Can
I because she's not here yet, is she?
No, she's coming.
Like, I know how invested you've been in the chemtrail. I had a conversation with one of my staff members today, and I was like, look, check it out. He's like, you know, to be honest, I actually don't even look up. I was like, I know, but I get it, Dave, because of this.
Right.
You know, everybody's like, everybody's involved in this. And then he said, so what's the difference between chemtrails and contrails? And I explained and as I'm stood there trying to explain, and he was so engaged, he was like, oh my God, this is just next level. I was like, yeah, it's a thing. I said, and I can go and point you to the direction of where it's kind of all online, so you can actually go and see that what they're doing is legal in inverted commas, not to mention all the applications that they made, and I think the subsequent approvals to release vaccines into the air, and I think Queensland's on a trial for that, I believe.
Correct.
Yeah. So when you say things like that, I just go, what? No, really? I'm like, yeah, it's a thing. They're like, oh, right. So no, they won't allow that. They won't allow that to happen. I'm like, no, stop. It's happening already.
It's happening.
He was like, what? I was like,
and you know what's interesting to see is how many people are aware of it now. Almost everyone I spoke to today, like I was on a construction site today, and everyone there knew what was going on. Like they're, oh, the weather engineers are back, and even people have changed the terminology. They're swapping from chemtrails, which is very much a conspiratorial kind of term, to weather engineering, weather modification. I even heard someone say, oh yeah, that's the solar radiation management program, which is this whole idea that you can spray metallicized particles into the sky to reflect the sun's rays back and try and stop global warming. Like, it's the most harebrained, insane idea. I personally don't know if they're doing the solar radiation management program. I think it may even be a nanotech or smart dust program. I'm not too sure.
So can I ask, right? This is my big burning question.
Because
I'm like, I get to the point where I'm just like, yeah, I know. We can see the lines in the sky. I can see the lines all over the Telegram accounts, all over our Facebook and our Instagram. What can we do?
I don't know. I think we're hitting a critical mass. I put up a poll earlier saying, is now the time to have a weather and a stop the weather engineering rally. I think there is enough people around now who are just looking up. Like I'm looking just on the Telegram and on the Facebook pages. There are hundreds and hundreds of photos coming in, everyone around Australia saying, this is what's going on in my area. So, we don't need everyone. We just need enough. I think if we hit like a sort of 10% critical mass, then we can actually affect some change. But even looking at the aviation, the government aviation websites and so on, like we can start lobbying them to say, hey, we need answers. We need to know who's doing this because none of us voted for it. We know what's happening and we don't know what the consequences are to our health, to the environment and so on, let alone who's paying for it. And the other insanity of the whole thing is they're trying to run this climate change bandwagon and saying, oh, we've got all this, all these earth changes or climate emergencies that we have to now tax the world to stop this going on, when they're actually the ones orchestrating it and perpetrating it. It's incredible. Jay's saying there that Ricardo Bossi was saying it is the white hats with the counter spraying. That was quite a bizarre one from Ricardo. I'd like for him to elaborate a little bit further on that, but I don't know if he will. We're just waiting on Dr. Carrie, ladies and gents. Thanks for your patience. I'm sure she'll be here very soon, but I did give her a call and she had just woken up. Let's just keep an eye and see if she does pop into the chat here. But look, I think it's one of the biggest issues in the country right now would be the weather engineering. Second to that, I think it would be the fact that they are running these cover stories for long-term vax injuries. They're calling them long COVID.
Yeah, I'd actually really like to see if we can get like an expert that we can talk about, because one of the other questions, people are like, oh, well, chemtrails versus contrails, what's the difference? Because most of the people that aren't in our space and aren't asking questions and are doing the whole kind of, the young people that are just used to being told what to do, what to think, and not being able to trust themselves. I'd like to be able to kind of break it down for people. Like there are such things as vapor trails, correct? Correct. So how easy is it? It's the perfect bloody crime, isn't it? Like you just go, oh, well, and the nice part of you is like, oh, can't really be spraying us. The first thought is not necessarily going to be that's the stuff that's killing us or whatever it's doing. The first thought is going to be, oh, it's just an airplane with vapor trails. How do you know what's what?
Yeah, look, there's some pretty simple questions you can ask people. Like, when in the middle of winter, when you have fog coming out of your mouth, right? That's because there's a higher temperature, a lower temperature, relative humidity, and you see the fog forming. But you don't walk down the street and see this big long trail of fog behind you, do you?
No.
Right? Because it obviously dissipates. So when you see a condensation trail, it's no different to the condensation coming out of your mouth. It just dissipates and becomes part of the overall air mass. Where we're seeing these lines that do not disappear, they stay and they spread out and they blanket the sky. Then the following day we've got pretty severe wet weather, obviously today, like huge change. It's no different to as well when you start your car in the middle of winter, and how there's the steam or the vapor coming out the back of the exhaust. You don't see that car driving all the way down the highway, leaving this trail of smoke.
No.
That's a very temporary phenomenon, just exactly the same process as when you're breathing, which is exactly the same process as what happens with the jet engine, only on a different scale. Here she is. Hold there. Okay, I'm just where she's joining now. And okay, just going to try and where is she gone? Dr. Carrie Madej.
She's down bottom right.
Hold there. I'm going to make co-host, and I'm hoping.
Can you hear me?
We got you. There she is. Welcome to the call, Dr. Carrie Madej. How are you?
Hi. Good. My Wi-Fi is acting up this morning, so sorry about that. So can you hear and see me okay?
We can see you well. We can hear you pretty well. It does not surprise me at all if the Wi-Fi goes a bit weird. I'm sure you're used to these sort of weird kind of tech anomalies.
Yeah, yeah, of course it's happening right now. Yeah, so sorry about that. I've been trying to use my computer, now I'm on my phone. So hopefully this will work.
Yeah, look, that's okay. Look, first of all, welcome to the call. Good morning over there in Atlanta, Georgia. It is evening here in Australia, and just want to thank you on behalf of everyone for putting your time aside. And I've got my co-host here, Haley Bertles-Ease. You there, Haley?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you for joining us,
Hi.
Kelly. It's so nice to, I've seen so much from you and heard so much about you, and obviously been following. So really grateful for you taking the time to share your story with our community. So welcome.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, well, look, I guess we'll get right into it. First of all, like what a wild 3 years we've had, and you know, it feels like everything is ramping up. We have some crazy stuff going on over here in Australia right now, and it's probably like on steroids over there in the States. But with one broad question to start with, how are you faring right now? How are you going overall?
I'm doing a lot better than I was about 9 months ago. So, you know, I was in a plane crash, and so I've healed pretty well. I'll need one more surgery on my leg, but I'm still here by the grace of God, and God is real. So we have to remember that when things become really sad or depressing, we have to know that He is still in control. And I have a lot of solace in that. And I know the best is yet to come, and that there'll be grand miracles. I believe that there's going to be a lot of pressing and a lot of pushing and a lot more traumas. I can see that happening in the world, because you can see a lot of things that are happening in the world are quite demonic. And it's to wake up those people, to get them to rise up, to have a voice. And I know that a lot of people are praying for you in Australia, to all the people in Australia. So you're in our prayers quite a bit. But I truly hold all of my hope and faith and love in our Creator.
You know, Carrie, it was actually Haley's idea that I came over to Acapulco, right? You know, it was like 48 hours prior to the latest time I could leave to go to the conference that you were speaking at. And, you know, that whole conference for me, you know, a lot of it wasn't quite my jam, but just spending some time with yourself and with Del Bigtree, that made the entire trip worth it. I don't know if I told you, it took me 5 days to get home, right? I had this absolute nightmare trip. I had this nightmare of a trip home. But, you know, when you shared your story of survival with me, and how strong your faith is, like, that gave me such a boost, because I needed it. I was pretty black pilled at the time, very, very flat. And I was just relieved to get out of Australia. I felt like we'd been in this prison for a while, this big prison island. Can you share with all our listeners here tonight a little bit about your crash and how your faith kind of got you through that? Because I find it such a remarkable story.
Yeah. So yeah, about 9 months ago, I was at a small aircraft called a Piper, so it could fit 4 people. And luckily there are only 2 of us, not 4 of us. There should have been 4. And flying from Florida, the state of Florida, to Georgia, and about 7 minutes outside of the airport, we had engine trouble that was quite severe. The plane was shaking like a washing machine in the air, and the air traffic control was notified about the engine trouble, and they told us to do something strange. They said, turn around 180 and go to another airport much farther away. Which didn't make sense, but the pilot followed the instructions, and so somehow we stayed in the air. Now, to make this story more remarkable, about just the day before, I was telling my friends, they said, aren't you worried about flying in a small aircraft? I said, oh no. I said, God told me I would not die in a plane crash. And so, I'm good. I really, he told me that 25 years ago. And so when I was in that aircraft, I was praying. I had one hand on the right side, one hand on the roof, and praying with everything I had. And it was a long journey, because it took maybe at least 8 minutes to crash. A lot of conversations with God. And when I was praying, I actually could see like 2 big hands over the plane and 2 wings surrounding the plane. And I knew it was his will that would be done. And so when the plane was almost to the other airstrip, which was a miracle in and of itself, and then the engine just completely stopped. And when that happened, it was making a free fall, like just no glide. It just made a free fall from about 2,000 feet in the air, just down. And so we ended up crashing into the woods, and the air traffic control knew we were crashing. And so all I remember is pine trees flying, into the windshield. And at the very second before the impact, I remember hearing a voice saying, turn your head. And I turned my head, and that saved most of my face, just my skull and all that got hit. And I remember every tiny little thing. I remember everything, the gauges. I had very good memory of that. And so I remember the pilot said, we're going to crash now. And I said, okay. I was very calm at that time. And so I remember, each impact, and then white, everything went white. It felt like my spirit left my body, and then came back. And I got one sense back at a time. And so the sense of sight came back, but then each sense came back one at a time, which seemed like a long time. The pilot was unconscious for a while, then he came to, but he was completely disoriented. And as soon as I could start breathing, it took minutes to breathe. I started to turn into doctor mode. And that's when I realized the worst injury was my leg was actually 120 degrees, turned the opposite direction my foot was. So that was the worst injury. And I knew that I couldn't bleed out or I could die. So the pilot had some head trauma, but otherwise he was okay. So I was able to open the door and pull my body onto the wing, and I kept my leg inside the cockpit to keep the pressure off. And so, and just focused on breathing and talking to the pilot, because he was very disoriented. And then realized there were no sirens. No one was looking for us. The air traffic control never called 911. And so after 15 minutes, I was able to, find a phone, and then called 911, called the emergency department, and they said that help was on the way. But more time went on, which was about another 30 minutes, and no sirens. And I started to question. I was going into shock, but I was still, aware of everything. And I said, I don't think.
Sorry to interrupt. Can I ask how much pain were you in at this stage?
Well, at first you're in shock, and so you don't really feel that much pain, which thank God that's how we're designed. But as time went on, the pain was mounting, and I was trying everything to compartmentalize it. You learn that as a doctor, how to separate things. But at times it was overwhelming. I just didn't let my mind do that. And it was hard to breathe. It was really hot that day. It was so hot. I was laying on the wing, and I was getting burns through my clothing from the metal in the sun. And so then the air traffic control admitted they didn't know where we're at. They lied to us. So then I realized I could pin my location on the phone. I sent it to a family member of the pilot, and then I told the air traffic control the phone number. They finally got a hold of that person through the pin. They had 20 units come to look for us. And I heard sirens, but they were very distant. And then the air traffic control said they still can't find you because they're close, but there are woods and there's no entry point because we dropped directly from the sky. We dropped down, we didn't glide in. And so that's when she said, you have to scream with everything that you have. And that's when God gave me this voice. I learned how to roar, I tell people. So I screamed and yelled louder than I've ever in my life. And that strength only came from God. And a sheriff finally found us. And he said, if you didn't scream or pin the location, we could never have found you. We would have likely died out there. So they had to cut down trees, get a farmer to help us cut down trees. The paramedics were throwing up because I guess my leg looked that bad. So, and so they flew us to the trauma unit. They thought I was going to be paralyzed. And so I remember hearing that they thought I was going to be paralyzed from the mid back down. And that's when I had that strength of mind where I said, nope, I didn't survive this just to be paralyzed. In my mind saying this is not going to happen. People found out we were in the crash and were praying. And about 3 hours later, the same doctors came into my intensive care unit and told me that they're confused. They said, we don't know what happened. We must have looked at your scans wrong. I guess all of us did, but you're not going to be paralyzed. It's not what we thought we saw. So
That's
I can give that to God.
incredible. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
incredible. I remember you telling me that. Wow. Sorry,
Yeah.
continue. So tell us more. And so from there, what happened?
Well, yes, there was incredible pain, but I can tell you with the surgery on the leg, and as people came in to pray, I could feel them when they put their hands on me. I could really feel the prayers. There was this amazing phenomenon that happened with my leg. I never had real pain in that leg, especially after the surgery. I felt this like electric blue. I almost could see it. This power. I could see just like an energy. And for a whole week, it was just like this electric blue plasma from my leg. And it was amazing because it should have been incredibly painful. And that part, I really didn't have pain. I still had a crush injury everywhere and had broken bones everywhere, but that was fantastic. And I knew that was the Holy Spirit working. And everything's a miracle. You know, I had many other broken bones, a skull, all that. And here I am. I have a little limp, but I'm still here. And I know that there's a purpose for me here. And I'm so grateful for all the people praying.
So incredible. Sorry, go ahead,
Sorry.
Haley.
Yeah, you're right. Can I ask, were you conscious the entire time? Did you have
Yeah.
any moment where you blacked out? I know that, like, from my own experience, I was in one of the most horrendous situations on an airplane. I genuinely thought I was going to die. Mainly because it was in the air in 2011 when the floods hit Brisbane, the first lot, not the ones that have just happened. And I had my children and my husband on that flight, and I've never experienced anything like it. Flown everywhere, genuinely thought that was it. So, but I just remember like the anxiety and moments where I'm like, I'm actually going to pass out here. Did that happen to you?
No, because I guess as training as a doctor, I'm used to the trauma. I actually get calm in a trauma situation. And I wanted to remember everything. I was looking at every gauge. I was looking at every tiny thing there. I was just hyper aware, I should say, and thinking that there has to be a way out of this. There has to be a way. The only time I did not, completely was noticing everything was the actual impact when everything went white, a bright white, which to me, it almost was like it wasn't in my body, because when I had one sense come back at a time, I thought to myself, am I dead? And I honestly thought I was dead until I realized I was in my body and I started to feel pain, and I'm like, okay, I'm alive. So that was the only instance for a moment that I don't think I honestly think that my spirit was out of my body.
Dr. Carrie, I remember at the start of all this, when many of us just knew there was something so wrong with this whole agenda. You were one of the first credible faces that started showing up on our devices. You know, your videos were going viral, and you know, there were just many of us who, in our bones and in our heart and souls, we just knew there was something absolutely wrong. But you kept showing up, and you were making sense, and we started sharing your videos, and obviously you stood on a few toes, and we know that a lot of people have been heavily targeted by the powers that be. You feel that your plane was sabotaged or brought down?
I don't know. We'll never know because I've been cut out of the investigation, although I'm the only one that remembers everything. They lost the name of the air traffic control. I mean, the locator never went off. So it's being covered up for sure. It's being covered up. And we'll never know what happened. So something happened to the engine, and then the fuel either ran out or it was contaminated, either one. But I can't dig into that. It's bigger than me. And I just know that God was giving me a warning 25 years ago. But when he said I would not die in a plane crash, I just thought I wasn't going to be in a plane crash. I didn't realize I could still be in a plane crash. I just wouldn't die. And so when I realized that up in the air, and then I'm like, oh no, this is going to really hurt. So I had to know the pain that was going to go through before it crashed. So that was going to torture, but yeah.
Wow, it's just such an incredible story. And you know, how long was it ago since we first met? I think it was about six weeks ago. So it must be coming up to 2 months that we were over in Acapulco. Give us a bit of a snapshot of what your life looks like now, especially since then. Like, what are you actually doing now? Because your work has been so important. Obviously, you've had this incredible, I guess, this recovery from this crash to go through as well. What's life look like at the moment for you?
I'm still traveling around and speaking to people. I had this calling to speak in person. I think there's a energy that we create with each other.
100%. Let me just tell you firsthand, whatever you passed on to me over there in Mexico, I definitely needed that. And so if you're being called to do that, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And that's not my only near-death experience. I've had many. And yes, when you speak out, you can be a target, but you know, I have this fearlessness now, and there's we're not alone. You know, supernatural is more real than this world that we see around us. There are angels, things, and I believe there are demons as well, but there are more angels in God that are around us than anything evil. And I think that we're going through these really terrible times and this is how we have to learn as humans, that we don't have a human solution for what we're going through right now. We need God, and we need to know that we have to pray and rely on one another too. So to get through this, and I think that's people finding their faith again, people believing in God again. And I think through this, we will see grand miracles that happen as well. And it's to meet one another, I call the tribe, and connect with one another. So like I said, I truly believe there'll be grand miracles that we will see in the world. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now is traveling and talking to people and educating them about how they can detox themselves, and also talking about common law, God's law, about leaving the system that we're in currently, the maritime system.
Yeah, well said. Well, you know, before we get into some of the solutions and some of the protocols that you've been sharing, can you tell us from your, you know, professional opinion what you actually think they are in these injections? Because we've seen so many, I guess, different opinions and so much different evidence. We've seen everything from nanotech and Morgellons to snake venom, graphene oxide, graphene, another type of graphene, so many different things. And I think a lot of the time this sort of all these different varied informations can sometimes discredit what we're trying to get out there. What do you actually think, or what do you know is actually going on from the evidence that you've seen?
Well, just about every vial I've seen has evidence of some nanotechnology or superconducting material inside of it. And what that means is it's a liquefied parts of a computer or a computing device. And that's what I would expect to see, because I had attended meetings in the United States where they talked about modifying the behavior of people through this kind of technology. This is a worldwide view. This is not a conspiracy theory. If you look at any country, they've been talking about modifying our behavior, uploading us, transforming us, human 2.0. And so by me observing the vials under the vaccine under the microscope, I saw evidence of this 100%. And the strange thing is there are a lot of dissenters. They always attack that part, meaning whatever the government and their people that work for them, whenever they attack something a lot, you should really look at it. And they are always attacking the nanotechnology, the graphene, anything that's a superconducting material. To me, that's the main part that's in there. So, and you can't do it all in one shot. They have to do it gradually, because if they put too much in one shot, it would kill somebody. So it's a cumulative effect. And so that's looking at that. How do you wipe the program out of a person, that sort of thing? How do you detox some of these things? We don't know a for sure way, but I tell people, heavy metal detox, taking certain detox baths, and protecting themselves from EMF. And also, there's a person that does technology in the United States with something. It's similar to shockwave, so a strong ultrasound with light, and that's been wiping a lot of the programs out of the human body and improving people. So we don't know any way to completely detox from the body, but in certain circumstances, that's helping. I think it's really the superconducting material. Whether or not there's genetic changes happening, we don't know that. Not one person knows that. That will take time to tell. So when you hear people on these programs and they're saying, oh, one shot and it's the mark and you're going to hell, well, nobody knows that at all, because there's no evidence right now of genetic changes. We think that it could happen, but we don't know that. I think a lot of that is to scare people into giving up. And so I would never give up. But knowing that anything I could, if you had taken one of these, just try not to take any more, and to work on detoxing the ways that I told you about with heavy metals, these detox baths. EMF protection is really important. And, hopefully there'll be technology that can go to Australia, something similar to what we have here in the US.
Dr. Carrie, we have this huge elephant in the room right now in Australia, which is going mainstream. It's been discussed in Parliament and it's been all over the mainstream media, but the mainstream media are claiming that they're baffled and that it's a mystery. And the elephant in the room is that we now have this mortality rate in Australia that has increased by 18%. And it looks like it's going to continue to go up. And this is something that the government can't obviously cover up now. It's become a major story. Now, do you think, in your professional opinion, that there's also a depopulation program running, or is this just, I guess, a side effect of using this experimental kind of technology on humans, or is it a combination of both, perhaps?
100% there's a depopulation program, because in their minds, there are too many of us, and they are doing something called the culling. So they've always planned on doing this. These few people that think that they're above us. This is very occultic. People need to realize, even if they've not believed in God or the Bible, that the other side does. They know the scriptures quite well. They use occultic symbolism. They use witchcraft in everything they do. I really thought it was just a fringe part of the world that did that up until not that long ago, when I realized how prevalent it is. So yes, it is intended to kill a lot of people and to control the fertility, because they want to ultimately control us this time. many times in history this has happened, but this time it's like the battle of all battles. They really want to be able to control us. And that's why they feel that if they connect us to artificial intelligence, it's like just plug and play, program and upload things, etc. And also, I'm very spiritual about this. Satan cannot create life. He cannot create anything. He can just hijack it. And he comes from a dead world, right? So the AI world is a dead world. It's not a living world. There's a lot of symbolism in what is going on right now. And like I said, I am totally against this. And the people that are participating and assisting, they're fools, because I've talked to some of them. They believe that they will be exempt from what happens to the rest of the world, and they're idiots. Actually, they're going to be part of the same program. It's just an AI program. So they're not going to be exempt from this at all. There's a lot of people involved in some way, somehow. They know some of these plans, and they think by going along that somehow they won't be a part of it. But I'm calling them out. They will have to serve justice will be served. They will have to answer for what they're doing. Absolutely.
On that, we have seen the cracks appearing in this narrative for, it feels like, so long now. Like, everyone I know knows that Fauci is an absolute criminal, for example. Everyone that I know knows that Bill Gates is a sociopath, a eugenicist. How is it still going on that no one is being held to account? We haven't seen arrests. We haven't seen the CDC fully exposed. We still see Pfizer trading when it's well known that this is a bioweapon now. We've even had our own premier here in New South Wales say, yeah, well, look, actually, it turned out that these injections offer no protection and they don't stop any transmission whatsoever. We also had Australia's favorite TV doctor admit that she's severely vaccine injured a few days ago. Just today on television, we had another TV star say that his partner is severely vaccine injured and down for the count. Like, when is this freaking damn wall going to break? Like, what's it going to take?
When we say no, because the whole world system, this has been a program in place for many, many decades. This whole thing, actually, it goes before World War II, but if you want to look at the real nuts and bolts of it, it's still stemming from World War II. The United States thinks that they won. They did not win, really. It was just a truce, because we were the last nation to sign on to the United Nations. And so a decision was made that we would sign on. And then I truly believe it was just made to appear that we won. We did not win. Because we ended up taking the scientists and continuing everything that they were doing, everything. The technology we're going through right now is the Nazi technology. And also, people need to realize that Germany is still a war country from World War II. They never undeclared from World War II. So the war is still technically going on. It's just been underground. And these Nazis went into many of the government's heads, and they just amalgamated, they changed their names, etc. Of course, they became in charge of drug companies, like IG Farben became Monsanto, etc. They just changed their names, but they did the same thing. And Schmidt, who was in charge of IG Farben, he served only a couple of years in jail for gassing everybody, killing millions of people. And in jail, he actually made these statements saying, this time we're going to get it right. We're going to do this through more subtle means, through the food supply, et cetera. And so when he came out, they formed something called the Codex Alimentarius, which is the blueprint for what's going on. It's about controlling the food, the medicine, putting poisons into the population. So this is truly, absolutely 100% still from World War II, from the Nazi regime, their technology, everything. And then again, you look at where did they really get their high technology? It's no secret that the Nazis were formed from groups called the Vril Society and the Tool Society, which are occultic black magic societies. They actually conjured up and said that they were contacting the other side to get information. And this is all public information. It's not conspiracy theory. But anyway, the technology that we're dealing with comes from that. And so we have to realize that, people in the heads of state in these countries, they view us as slaves. and they have us under something called a maritime law, and that is a slave system. So how do we slaves expect that we're going to get better treatment because we're slaves? But we're, once we realize the corrupt system that we are in, and that we're really in a system called maritime system we're not supposed to be in, and know that there's something called God's law and common law. And if there's enough of us, if there's groups of us that start to declare who and what we are and start to follow that, and we have each other's back, that's very, very, very powerful. And so that's something that I've been learning more about and teaching others about as well.
Yeah, well, on that, do you want to share a little bit more on that? And I do want to be mindful of your time, because I know I'm sure you've got a busy day ahead, but because this is something that for me personally, and I think a lot of people also would feel the same. I find the whole legal world and the lawful world sometimes overwhelming. It feels like there's a lot to learn, and then it feels like the system is often so well stacked against us. What's your journey been like in understanding, or understanding, I should say, this transition from this maritime or slavery law into God's law or the common law?
Well, it's important to know history. So in 1666, that year in London, they had a lot of chaos that happened. Likely that was instigated. So they had the bubonic plague. And it's funny, if you look at the bubonic plague, they blamed it on the rats from China, not the bats from China. It's the same playbook.
Wow.
So back then, if one person got sick, they forced the entire family into the home and they locked the home. And they died of starvation and other things. They didn't have access to food. And so they had marks on the homes. They had like a health certificate, like a health passport. They locked the entire city down, like same playbook. I couldn't believe it. And then also they had these big fires that somehow started, like 70-80% of London was burned down. And so between those two things that were chaos, people had to, obviously they didn't have a home, right? They had to leave and leave for a while. Well, back in the day, if you owned land or a home or anything like that, it was owned permanently. You bought and paid for it, period. Your descendants would get it. That's how it's supposed to be. So back then, because people left, the parliament got together and they said, well, since there's so much chaos, let's help the people. They said, let's change it so that since we don't know who is alive or dead, let's make them all, let's create the maritime law system where they're all dead at sea. And we'll give them 7 years to come back to claim who and what they are and claim their property and their title. And so they didn't really announce this too much. This is just what happened. And to this day, when you're born and your mother or father signs the birth certificate, there's 7 years that goes by where you're lost at sea, and you have 7 years to claim your minor estate, your estate, to claim who and what you are. Well, nobody knows this, right? We just started finding this out. And so then you're officially considered like dead. Your property, your chattel, you're not really a living woman or man. So if you look at the law books and how they're doing this, a living woman or man has obviously a lot more rights than property or chattel. Mm-hmm. So when they're doing all this, they're actually able to take over and hold your estate, hold whatever you have in perpetuity. So the state holds on to whatever your rights are as a living woman or man. And this is how they can take your child away from you. This is how they have, really laws over your own children. This is how they can do things to us that are not fair, which are against human rights. So, this is how horrible things happen to us, because we are not living men and women in their eyes. So when you start to know how to declare yourself a living woman or a living man, and you start to separate away from the system, which takes a lot of education, I'm not going to tell you it's easy. You have to start learning a lot on how to use your words. And it's a powerful thing. So I can tell you, it's not just something physical. It's actually, to me, it's changing me just, mentally, spiritually. saying who I am, being able to write out when I introduce anything to a court system, I tell them who I am. I said, I am an American free woman. I'm the daughter of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I am the grantor of the original jurisdiction and its beneficiary. So who are you? And
Right.
so I wrote letters to the local courts saying, putting them on notice and having an inquiry. I want to know, where's your business license? What kind of species of money are you using? So all these questions, it's proving, if they answer them, it'll prove that they are fraudulent and fictitious court. They have no ruling over a human, a woman or a man that's living. And also I'm giving back all these numbers they assigned to me that are they're making me chattel and merging them officially. So it's a stepwise process. But yes, you actually, you will get the feeling of more freedom. And it does make a difference with different things that are going on. But it's a huge topic. But I'd say first start to know the history of the world, because everyone's under maritime law. It's not just the United States, but it started with England, and how that correlates with us right now. And also know, like, the baptismal certificates, you don't want a certificate ever being sent in for a baptism. They all go to the Vatican, and they actually use them as, in their mind, trading souls and things like that. When you know what they're actually doing, they, in their mind, these small group of people do look at us like chattel and slaves. But until we wake up and we become educated, that's when there's power in that. And it takes more than just 2 or 3 people. It takes groups of people to do that. But that's a huge topic to talk about, but it's fascinating. And I know there's a couple people in Australia that have been talking about that and have some really great classes on that.
Look, it's a really difficult one, because, like you say, it's a big conversation. And what we've had in this country, especially over the last couple of months, is we've had a few people, I guess, targeted, and they've had a little bit of education and a little bit of information, and they've tried to apply that in confrontations with the authorities, and the authorities have just said, basically, smashed their window, filmed it, sent it to the media, dragged them off and arrested them. And these people haven't fared very well. And I think what we've seen is people have a little bit of education with a big attitude, and they haven't necessarily done the spiritual work, where they're non-combative and they're coming from that kind of I guess that attitude, or that vibration, if you will, that is not confrontational. So I see these people and they're like, I'm a living man, you've got no authority over me, I'm traveling. And then next minute the cop's like, come with me, bang, smash the window, drag him out. Not a good look.
That's a great way to put it, because I tell people it will not work unless you really do your education and learn all of it, or learn it very well. And it's a whole different attitude. Like you said, you have to go in calm and cool, and you have to know, what you're doing. You can't be combative like that. That is not the time and place for that. There's a time and place for everything. There's a time and place for righteous anger too, and that will come. But you're right. When people get in trouble, it's because they're not, they have to know more than just I'm a living, breathing man. Yes. Or a living, breathing woman. It's a lot more than that. It's hard to always put into words. You have to, I tell people, you have to become the word. You have to become what you're saying, and really live and breathe it, and know every little aspect around it, and know how to be calm and cool and stand your ground. If you become combative, it's an excuse for them to just abuse you more.
I think it's a confidence thing as well. And I don't think it's an egotistical confidence. It's a confidence that comes from faith. And that's something that I really get from you, Dr. Carrie. And, I haven't shared the footage yet, but I'll just share the conversation with you. About a month ago, no, actually it's longer than that. Maybe almost 3 months ago, sorry, I went to see a friend of mine, and I went to her house, and she's helping me out with some legal stuff, some common law stuff. And I got to her house, and she was actually being arrested when I arrived. And there was one motorbike there, 2 police cars, and what we call a paddy wagon. And I started filming straight away. And she had been followed by this whole pursuit of officers, because she was driving, which she claimed to be traveling and not under their jurisdiction. And so they basically followed her all the way home, and they dragged her out of her house and arrested her and took her down the station. But I got there,
And I started filming. I started asking about her welfare and where she was being taken. And I haven't shared the footage yet because I've got enough heat already that I have from the authorities here. I've got frozen bank accounts and all sorts of stuff, and I've got a lot of media trolling. But basically what I found was that because I was confident in who I am and I just started filming, they literally all didn't want to talk to me. And their body language, they knew they were doing the wrong thing. The body language was such a giveaway, and they all literally kind of rushed and fled the scene. And it was such a bizarre thing. I thought, wow, here I was just standing there in like a singlet and a pair of board shorts and bare feet. I'd gone to see my friend, and there was probably 7 or 8 officers there, and they're heavily armed here now too. We've militarized our police like in the US as well. They have a taser, they have obviously a gun, they have the full body armor. They're pretty intimidating. But when you stand in the truth and you know you're doing no harm, you always do kind of have the upper hand if you're willing to stand in that space. Would you agree with that?
Yes, there's a power that comes from that when you have that calmness, that peace, but yet you know you're standing in the right, and it is an energy that you put out, and it's that is what is so powerful. That's what makes them shake. That's what makes them run away. That's what influences others, right, to do the right thing. But if you have that kind of chaotic, that that you lose control of how you're talking and you're yelling back like that, that's coming from a lower energy, right? It's when you're at a higher energy like that peacefulness, and that you're assertive and you're right, and you're just saying with that confidence, that scares them because they are not coming from that at all. So you're correct in that. It takes practice though, right?
Yeah, it takes practice, and it's a journey. And I think this is the one thing I really got from you is that we have to go through this as much as we don't like it. Sometimes I want to go back to my life 3 years ago where I had like this great sales job and I used to go surfing around the world 2 or 3 times a year. And, life was pretty cruisy until now. Where life's very, very different. We don't know what's around the corner. There's so many agendas rolling out, but we're going to start wrapping up the call pretty soon, so we can let you get on with your day. But can you share a little bit about, I guess, how this has strengthened you? Because you've been obviously so prolific, your voice around the world, but you've been heavily targeted, but your faith has become incredibly strong. Can you share a little bit with us, I guess, where you see this taking us all on our journeys through, what may lie ahead?
Well, I'm only here because God says I'm still here. It's, before all of this, before anyone knew me, I was going through a lot. I was speaking up back then, but I wasn't on social media. So yeah, my life was threatened more than once. I had to leave the country. So this is not my first rodeo. And it's obvious that only because of God am I still here. And I've educated myself knowing that we can't want to go back to the way it was, because people need to realize millions of children are missing a year, and who knows how many adults being killed and tortured, and genocides at an all-time high. Slavery, we have the most slaves ever in the world right now. We're not the civilized world we think we are. And so we don't want to go back to that, but we do want to be in a better place, better than we ever have been, and we can. And I do believe that that's the transition we're going through, but it's not easy, and it's there's going to be chaos to wake people up in a way. But if we know what is important, and we know, keep our eyes on God and have that faith, and the scripture tells us everything, because there's power in the word, there's power in how you stand, there's power in how you say it. There's science to back up even what the scripture is saying. I think that's, I don't know if you can see me. Something happened in my Zoom. Can you hear me still?
We still got you, but
I don't know why it's doing this whiteboard thing.
Yeah,
which is weird.
That was weird.
Yeah. Okay.
Continue.
So anyhow, there's power in how you speak. There's power in how you stand. It's a learning lesson how to actually have authority and dominion here on earth. So the things we saw, like David, who was very small man and a small, really boy, he took down the giants. That is, that's really what we're going to be doing at some point here when we understand who and what we are and have that authority and dominion. I know my job's not done yet. I still have that warrior spirit. I think my big job hasn't happened yet. And I'm ready and willing to be God's servant. And I am definitely have a protector spirit. I think we should be protecting the weaker and the more fragile. And I know that time is yet to come. And I'm honored to be part of that, and I want to be there to judge some of these entities that have been torturing us for so long, and it will happen in our lifetime. So we have to remember that. And we have the ability to heal with our hands. We have the ability to do the miracles that we've seen in the Bible. We just forgot who and what we are. And I think that's my main job here, is to remind people who and what they are, that they are divine beings. If we were just physical beings, we would all be dead right now. That all of the things that they did would have worked a long time ago. They're frustrated. So even with all this high-tech science, it doesn't work.
Sorry, go on. That is such a powerful point, because sometimes I look at how, like I sent you that video of how much they're spraying us at the moment, and God knows what else they're doing.
Yeah. They always say, like, after a nuclear fallout, there'll still be cockroaches. Well, we're the cockroaches, okay? They spray us, they do these frequencies, they poison the food, poison the water, and here we are. And they're frustrated, like, why won't you just die?
Right,
because we're not just physical. We have to, our mental state, which is our soul, is powerful. The words we say are powerful. So if you forget that, look at the rice experiment on YouTube. So if you have cooked rice, do this at home. You put just words on the bottles, just put love and then hate. And then you just speak love to the one and hate to just hateful things to the other. And you'll see that the rice that has love on it is preserved, and the one that has hate is got mold and it's decaying. That's just with your words. Okay, so we have that. And then the spiritual part of us. I mean, that is incredible. Miracles happen all the time. I can tell you, I've seen people spontaneously heal from cancers and all kinds of things, and we have no explanation, but these are miracles. This is from people's mindset and prayer. We forgot that part of us. That's why we're going through this, because we are not just these biological beings just plugged into the system. We are better than that. We are more grand and divine. We come from a royal priesthood, and if we choose that, because we have free will. So you have to look at it in that way. And start to stand in that and have confidence. And to me, like, I'm not afraid of death. So I'm like, yeah, go ahead, kill me, because I know where I'm going. And it makes people frightened when you're like that. When you hold that stance and you hold that power, they don't know how to take you. They freak out in a good way, because they're used to being able to have that hold over you, to be able to make you frightened and like, there's nothing you can do to me. That who are you? You're just a person. And if you have that calmness, that's what scares them. When you're talking about people just going nuts on them, like, I'm a free man or woman, that doesn't scare anybody. When you hold that presence, that's that regalness, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what really gets to them. And if we get 12 people like that together, that's powerful. We emit our own energy too. This is all scientific. And just imagine people getting together and emitting that own energy. So we're, like I said, it's not all bad. We're going to go through some more trauma, so brace ourselves. But together, when we remember who and what we are, again, we will see those grand miracles.
Yeah, beautifully said. Powerful words. I don't know how much more time you've got left, but a couple of people have just been asking there in the chat if you could share a little bit on some help for anyone of our loved ones who have been injected, or anyone who's listening on the call who's been injected, what they can do to negate some of the long-term implications of that.
There are detox baths that have helped a lot of people, and I can give you some of I have slides that I wasn't able to show you here. I don't know if you have any way to share those if I sent them to you later.
Yeah,
but they're
are you just on your phone at the moment?
Yeah, I don't know.
We can upload
share
them
with us.
We can pop them on the website
Okay.
later and make it available for all of the members. So that's not a problem.
Awesome.
Okay, so I'll give how to do certain detox fasts that people that they definitely say they improve, pulls out different toxins. And you can try these at minimum 3 times a week, but if you're having symptoms, try to do them more often. Heavy metal detox, and you can do it through a supplement called DMSA. That's very safe. I try to stay away from the EDTA that people use, just because some people, they detox too fast from it. It redistributes the heavy metals. So DMSA, or there's a product called Touchstone, made in the US. It's a zeolite clay. It's tiny. It's a spray in your mouth, and it actually pulls out even graphene from the bloodstream. Their studies, live blood analysis have shown that. And they also have, it's the droppers for the stomach and then the spray in the mouth. Those two together are very powerful to pull out all kinds of poisons, including radiation and the heavy metals and even the graphene. They've seen that in the early studies. So
Wow,
those are really
awesome.
good.
Do you have a, if you do, yeah, if you have a supplier with that, if you could send me a link, I might get in touch with them and see if we can get a bulk order for our community. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And then also protect yourself from these frequencies, the EMF. The National Institute of Health and other organizations have now admitted what we've always thought, that the COVID syndrome, or what they're calling the SARS-CoV-2 virus, can be induced on a human through a certain frequency, meaning they can pulse a certain energy through the air. And if you're already weakened, maybe you're toxic or stressed or whatever, that energy can create the COVID syndrome in you. So there's really no virus, just like they're kind of admitting there's no virus, right? So, but what do we do about that? Well, the healthier you are, the less likely you'll get sick. But the other thing is, I'm always wearing, people see these bands. These are not, don't ever wear a smartwatch. They're evil. Put a hammer to it. It's not a smartwatch. This is just a EMF band. So it helps, it helps protect your body from the bad frequencies that come in. It changes the resonance. It's all natural, but where you're sleeping is the most important place. So there's a plug-in unit, and then there's something for the mattress that I highly recommend, and the band, and something for the cell phone. That's the minimum that you get. It really is an important investment, because I see that this is the most horrendous toxin that they're giving us right now. This is the toxin more than everything else. And also these frequencies are needed to activate what the shot has as well. So you want to protect yourself as much as possible. This company called EMFSOL.com, that's the only one that I've seen that works. They have research to show that it works. So I just tell people that I know that it works. I've seen it work time and time again. It's been very important. So also, if you, in the meantime, unplug your Wi-Fi at night, don't have anything plugged in within 6 feet of the head of your bed. Of course, you have your phone minimum 6 feet away from you in the bedroom. Of course, everything's 6 feet, isn't it? Right? They want us to stay away 6 feet.
Right.
Because our own energy field goes out 6 feet. So we are energy beings. People need to realize that. So everything within 6 feet, you're interacting, you're exchanging energy with people if they're within 6 feet of you, right? So that's why the 6 feet's the rule for that.
Good. Yeah, if we could get, if I can get some of those links off you, I might contact some of those suppliers and see if we can maybe get a bulk order out to Australia, and we can sort out that with Haley. Maybe we can take care of that and get in touch with some people. Hey.
Yeah, 100%. So
EMFSOL.com. I can give you the contact of the man that's the inventor of that, so you can talk to him directly. Yeah,
it's really, I'm grateful, because I mean, there's so much information out there. It's really hard to know what's good and what's been tried and tested. So yeah, it's cool. Obviously, it's always cool to have something on recommendation, and we are trying to actually provide the greatest products available for our community. So it's cool. Thank you. We'll do something. Dave,
and these are that have helped me. They've helped just every people that try it again and again. They're seeing improvement always. So it's I stand by them very, very much. And So, and the person that has the technology too, that helps people that have had the injections and other issues with that as well. I know that he wants other people to use it as well. So it would be great if somehow we could get him over there. I don't know, with his schedule, and maybe introduce the technology there as well. So
yeah, well, perhaps we could even have them on the call and find out more about the products and interview some of these people, which could be really powerful too.
yeah, this is the shockwave therapy that I was talking about, that he's helping people wipe the programs out of their body through the
'Cause
technology.
you know what's been quite alarming is we have started to see I'm talking to quite a few people who do live blood analysis, and they're starting to see some of these structures in the unvaccinated blood as well. I'm sure you're hearing about this as well, whether it be the spraying or the shedding, or not really
They've
quite
been
sure.
terraforming the earth for a while, and that's why they had to resort to the shots, because we are so resilient. We're taking it in and we are still walking around. I mean, I have to laugh because I mean, the amount of stuff that we take, it was they are frustrated with us. This is why they have the fear campaign. This is why they get us psychologically. This is why they have to do the mental torture to us, because physically they have done everything and they're very frustrated because we're not succumbing like they want us to. And if we just understood the power of who and what we are, I mean, so fast this would turn around. So yeah, we are getting all these things naturally anyway, but the payload, the one that is strong, is only through the injection, because that's when it really replicates. So of course we have some of this in our bodies, all of us, but it's not enough to really do what they want it to do.
Yeah, well said. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there, Dr. Carrie. I really hope we can have you on again. I'd love to get you on, maybe share your slideshow maybe another time. Those slides you had over in Acapulco were fantastic. But before we wrap up, any final words to our audience here tonight?
Just the main thing is to remember who and what you are, that you are not just a person out there, that if you tap into who you are, that you are a divine person, that you come from a royal priesthood, and that the power is truly in the scriptures. There's power in the word, there's power in the name, there's power with us coming together. And that I go forward every day because I have this love and faith and hope in my heart that is not from me, it's from God. And it's a reassurance that he's not left us, he's not forgotten us. And so I just want to say that I say this with a brace of love and hope.
Well, thank you so much for your beautiful words. And on behalf of everyone in Australia, we just want to thank you for being a shining light down under here. You know, your videos went viral. You kept us all going. You educated us. You inspired us. And you've really blessed us tonight as well with your presence and your information and your message. And we just want to thank you. I'd love to have you on again sometime. And Hayley, any final words from yourself?
No, I feel the same way as you. Thank you so much for being generous with your time. I would love to have you back on again, and just go deeper into some of the things that you didn't have time to explain. So yeah, so grateful for everything that you do, everything that you stand for, and everything that you bring, not just to our community, but the world. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. It's my honor and duty. And yeah, just let me know how I can send those slides or the information for people to access.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'll drop you an email now.